Hey guys, Mark here. I hope you are well. Today I'm going to show you how to make the lazy man's dog leash. This dog leash is not named the lazy man's because a lazy man would use it or make it. It is named such because we're using a fairly fast method for making it. We're going to be using 2 cords at any one time in our project instead of 1. Here you can take a look at the dog leash that we're going to be making. As you can see, both the braid and the decorative knots are all made 2 cords at a time. So instead of using 1 working hand at a time, we're using 2. This saves time and gives you a unique look. So with that said, let's move on to the splice, then get into tying. Before we head into the splice, a single important note. The dog leash that I made is 4 feet long. So the cord lengths are going to be stated for this length. If you're going to be making a shorter leash, use less cord. For a longer leash, adapt the cord lengths accordingly and use a bit more cord. One of the main supplies for this project are going to be cords. We're going to be using 4 cords, which are 17 feet long, for a 4-foot leash. I recommend using 2 cords of one color and 2 cords of another color. This way you can get a nice 2-color effect going. The second important supply is a piece of hardware for attaching your leash onto the collar. So this can be a snap hook, a carabiner, or something else depending on what you have available. Other than that, scissors and a lighter are used to trim and melt the ends. Let's begin tying. To prepare our project for the tying and braiding process, we are going to attach our cords onto the piece of hardware. I'm going to do this 2 cords at a time. I simply feed 2 ends through, and I make sure that I come to the middle point of my cords. Basically, the 4 ends should be of equal length. Then, I'm going to pick up the next 2 cords and repeat. So feed the 2 ends through, and make sure that all ends are of equal length. So I have 8 ends, all of equal length. Now that I have my ends ready, I'm going to tie a foot rope knot. First, spread apart your ends into pairs of 2. So 2 go to the bottom, 2 to the left, 2 to the top, and 2 to the right. Like this. Then we're going to tie a crown knot. Take a pair and place it counterclockwise over the next pair. Take the next pair and place it counterclockwise over the next pair. Take the 3rd pair and place it over the last pair of strands, again counterclockwise. Finally, the last pair of strands passes into the loop created by our first pair. So these two come into this opening here, like this. Then tighten up a bit to get a crown knot. So you simply pull on two ends at a time. So this is what you get, a crown knot which is square shaped. Basically a 4-stranded crown knot. Then we're going to transform it into the foot rope knot. You take two ends and you pass over these two strands, so over these two, and immediately up through the center of our crown knot. Like this. Take the next pair and repeat. So over these two cords here, and immediately up through the center of the crown knot. So through here. And the next pair, again, over these two cords, and immediately up through the center of the crown knot. And the last pair over two and immediately up through the center of the crown knot. So this is the foot rope knot. Now I'm going to slowly tighten it up, making sure that my two strands are neatly aligned through the knot. So as you can see, this is a very gradual, slow process, which you don't want to rush. Basically, what you're going to get is something like this. Then we can start our braid. Oftentimes when braiding leashes or other braided items, I use the humble door as my helper. I take a loop and I place it onto my doorknob like this, then hook in my project. like this. Now I can get some tension onto my cords while I'm working on my project. We're now going to do the main part of our project, so braiding the leash. Separate your two colors, one to each side. So 4 cords to the left, 4 cords to the right. Take the top 2 left cords, pass behind, in between the 4 cords on the right, and back to the bottom on the left. Take the 2 top right cords, pass behind, in between the cords on the left, and back to the bottom on the right. Then the top 2 left cords, behind, in between the cords on the right, and back to the bottom on the left. And the top 2 right cords, behind, in between the cords on the left, and back to the bottom on the right. At this point, I'm going to tighten up my ends, just to get a nice uniform pattern going. Like this. You can also probably notice the pattern. We're going to continue the same way. So top 2 left ends, behind, in between, and back to the bottom on the left. Top 2 right ends, behind, in between, and back to the bottom on the right. Top 2 left ends, behind, in between, back to the bottom on the left. Top 2 right ends, behind, in between, back to the bottom on the right. And again, tighten up. Keep doing this until you have only about a foot, maybe a foot and a half remaining in your working ends. A couple of tips to make your life a bit easier. You don't have to do your braiding in one session. Oftentimes, I braid a length, then take a break. I simply wrap around my ends around the doorknob. Like this. Then I can go for a walk, get something to eat, come back and continue. If you, during braiding, lose track of which pair of cords you should be using, it's always the pair furthest back in the braid. So in this case, I should continue with this pair. Then this pair becomes the one furthest back, so I should be using this one. So it's always the pair furthest back. After braiding a sufficient length, I'm going to form the handle. So something like this. Then work my 4 pairs of strands back into the braid with the process called splicing. So to do this, what we're going to do is basically pick a pair in the braid and follow it with a pair of strands. Then pick another pair and follow it with the next pair of strands. And the same with the other 2 pairs. So let me show you. So let's say we're going to start with this pair. We're going to take some sort of a tool, perhaps a pen, a stick, a marline spike, perhaps a thread, whatever you have. Then we're going to pick a pair of strands, let's say this pair. We're going to follow it going through here, like this. Pick up the next pair and again splice it in, this time following another pair of strands. So in this case, this one. Like this. Then the other two pairs exactly the same way. So I'm going to pick this pair and follow this one going under here. And the last pair is going to follow these two strands traveling under here. And with this, I have spliced in my ends one time. So I did a single tuck. You may want to add a second tuck, maybe even a third one, depending on the amount of pressure that you expect from the dog pulling on the leash. But for now, all I'm going to do is try to get all of my ends to the same spot. So let's say to this spot here. So I'm going to need to splice these two ends one more time and these two as well one more time to get them to here. So at this point, my ends are pretty much on the same location. I'm now going to tie a foot rope knot. To secure the splice in place and finish up the ends, we're going to tie another foot rope knot. So again, start with a crown knot. You take a pair of strands and you pass counterclockwise over the next pair. Then the next pair passes counterclockwise over the third pair of strands, and the next pair over the last pair of strands, and the last pair passes into the loop created by the first pair. So we have tied a crown knot. Tighten it up a bit to get its square shape. So like this, the crown knot tied around our splice. Now transform it into the foot rope knot by taking two of your ends, passing over these two strands, and up through the center of the crown knot. And the next pair of strands again passes over these two strands and up. And the next pair over these two strands and up through the center of the crown knot. And the final pair again over these two strands and up through the center. So just like the foot rope knot that we tied at the start. It may take a bit of getting used to, but it's not a hard knot to tie. Then all we're going to do is tighten it up. So keep tightening up until you get a super firm and tight foot rope knot. Then trim the ends and melt them. Besides the foot rope knot, I'm going to show you another knot that you can use instead of it. It is a bit more secure, it looks a bit better, but it is also a bit harder to tie. So this is going to be a multi-strand Turk's head knot. To make things easier to see, I'm going to place a PVC pipe over my splice. You don't have to do this, you can tie directly onto the splice. First, I'm going to grab my ends. So all 8 of my ends. I'm going to make sure that my ends are neatly lined up. They should not cross one another. Then I'm going to wrap around my PVC pipe. Like this, coming to the bottom right. Then I'm going to weave my 4 pairs of strands through the 8 strands around my PVC pipe. Take your first pair and pass under two, over two, under two, and over two. So under, over, under, over. Take the next pair, pass under two, under your first pair of strands, then travel parallel going over two, under two, and over two. So again the same sequence, under two, over two, under two, over two, but starting under our first pair of strands. The third pair passes under the second pair of strands, under two, then travels parallel over two, under two, and over two. So again, under two, over two, under two, over two, parallel to the second pair of strands, but at the start going under them. The last pair does pretty much the same thing. So it passes under the third pair of strands, then goes parallel over two, under two, and over two. So parallel, under two, over two, under two, over two, starting under the third pair. Now I'm going to tighten up my knot a little bit, just pulling on the ends. Do this very gradually and carefully. So something like this. So after slightly tightening up and cleaning up your knot, we're going to finish it up. Pick up a pair of strands, pass past a pair of strands coming out of the splice, then go under the knot and to the right side. Pick up the next pair. Again travel past a pair of strands coming out of the splice, then under the knot to the right. And the next pair. Past a pair of strands coming out of the splice, under the knot to the right. And the last pair. Past a pair of strands coming out of the splice, under the knot and to the right. Like this. Our knot is now tied. To tighten it up, start with your strands coming out of the splice, pull on them to remove the slack out of the knot and into the ends. Pick up the next pair, pull on it, and pull out of the knot. Finally, trim and melt the ends. I like to do it as close to my knot as possible. Like this. So guys, that's the Lazy Man Paracord dog leash, done 2 strands at a time. Thank you very much for joining me today, and I hope to see you next time as well.